Um, I am doing good. I mean, listen, you and I have been working on a lot of things behind the scenes, and so we're going in a lot of different directions. But it's all good stuff. So hanging in there, man.
It is all good stuff. We are concluding our 28-day kickstart, our virtual 28-day kickstart this weekend. So we're really excited about that as far as rolling out all the results that
Yeah,
people have gotten over the last 28 days, which is remarkable. And I've been able to kind of get a little bit of a glimpse as far as everybody's um, situation. And listen, it was probably one of the most unique uh, kickstarts this time around, considering everything from an emotional standpoint and being able to kind of do it. But I think that the people that really, all 50 people that joined were, I mean, like they were just awesome as
yeah.
far as like what we were doing and the discussions that we had. So that was a very fulfilling, but yet stressful because we just didn't know how it was going to turn out really at the end of the day. Like you just kind of, sometimes what's interesting in business, and man, are we living this right now, where you create something and you have this idea in your head, and not all the ideas you come up with as a business owner do you get to beta test. Sometimes you just have to kind of go, I guess, well, what happens.
That
And
is,
then
I mean,
kind of,
listen, I'm a big fan of that kind of style of innovation anyway, because, I think it's smart to try to map things out and plan things out as much as you can. But in the end, you really don't know until you put it in the field and see what happens. So, you know, necessity is the mother of invention, right? So with the stay-at-home orders, we had no choice but to figure out how do we deliver this program 100% online. And you and I did a lot of planning in advance to kind of think of what do we need to do, what features do we need to offer that are unique to this situation. And yet you get into it and it's like a soccer game. You've got a strategy going. It's Mike Tyson said something like, everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face, you know
yeah,
and
yeah,
that's the way that it is. It's like a construction project, right? you know
yeah,
you you map out, I want to have my kitchen done, it's going to be a 4-week thing, it's going to cost this much money, and it never does, because
yeah,
you
yeah.
find things in the walls and you run up against unexpected challenges. So that's kind of what happened with the Kickstart. But I think it was great because it really gave us a lot of information that we need for how to do it remotely next time.
Hmm.
Because we're going to be doing a lot of things in a combination of live and remote from here on out, which we'll talk about in a little while. But that was good. It was good. You got to get that first time through. You got to get that first time around the track to see what the road is like. So anyway, it
Right.
was good, and everybody was great. That's the cool thing about everybody, is
Yeah.
that everybody was so understanding and rolled with the punches, because there were some hiccups, and people were cool about it.
Well, listen, I think that we have, over the last 17 years of being in business, we have somewhat prepped our community for the uh, circus that is John and Joe's innovative thoughts over the years since 2003. I remember this one period of time when we first were open. Well, I don't know, I would say it's probably a fucking decade. It's
Yeah,
like
right.
where every single year, or at one point it was even every 6 months, people would come to the gym and be like,
They moved
"Yep,
stuff around again.
yep,
Yeah.
yep. There's a new program coming out. Oh, thank you so much.
What's up, Stace?
It's my meal too. I got my my
Yeah,
nutrition
but
keeps me on point.
it's
But
nice to have one that lives in the
yeah,
house.
exactly.
It's what was great about that, though, is that they used to tease us about that all the time, and
Oh
I
yeah,
used to take the majority of that. They'd be like, Jonathan got bored again, and you know what it always is, because it was amusing to people for the most part. I mean, there were some people that it was that it was annoying to, where it's like, come on, I liked the way it was last time, and now I got to readjust and everything. Most people were amused by it. My thinking was always, there's a better way to do this. You know, there's a better way to do this. And I'm always looking around. And listen, there are plenty of times when I would do it and it wasn't a better way to do it, but it seemed like it was. Listen, if you're gonna fall down in the pursuit of doing something that you think is going to improve things, you know?
Right. Absolutely.
So that's what I'd rather trip in action, like doing something, than just fall down from doing nothing. You know, at least you're trying to do something.
Listen, true words have never been spoken. I feel the same way. I mean, I'm of the same kind of thread there, where it's like, listen, I will fall 1,000 times and not feel bad about a single fall,
Right.
as long as I start running in the direction that I believe is the right direction to run.
Right.
And I'll do it continuously over and over and over again. Which, listen, it's a great way to segue into the topic of discussion that we're about to have, which is training with a mask.
Yeah.
You know, so let's get into this. You know,
Yeah.
because this is a big deal, and it's something that I think that me and you have. When everybody was reopening in June 12th, we had to kind of hit the pause button and go, wait a second.
Yeah.
This is an important tool here into being able to defeat this pandemic. And it's being used as a political kind of tool in this country. And we're spiking worse than what we were in March.
Yep.
So to a certain extent, you know, I'm just going to cut to the chase and just kind of go, listen, this shouldn't be an argument.
Right.
In terms of what it does, but yet it is.
Yep.
There are mounds and mounds and mounds of data. And listen, everybody has this kind of, well, there's also science that shows that it can become toxic or this and that.
Yeah.
And we live in this world where once I have decided what my truth is, I will find whatever.
Right. That's just confirmation. That's just confirmation bias. So
right,
you make
right.
a decision, and then what you do is you unintentionally or intentionally go out and find information that supports your opinion instead of being objective about it. And listen, it's a human thing. We all suffer from confirmation bias because we want to be validated in what we believe. But I'm on board with what you're saying. And this is, you've got your mouse. This is the one that I've been wearing, which is just one of these, you know, that you just kind of pull up, which I like this style. But
I actually ordered a couple of those for us and the staff too as well. This one's kind of cool. We just recently got this because it's got a little bit of space in here.
Yeah.
It is so drastically different when you're training.
For sure. And that's one of the reasons why I like this too. And I want to try one of those, is because when I'm wearing this, I've got a little bit of space. Yeah, I got a little pocket of air right there. So it feels like a little bit more breathing space. But but continue with what you're saying. It has been a very hot topic. I don't think that there's a lot of controversy on the public safety side of things. It tends to be more of an issue that's politicized, and then it also tends to be more of an issue on the side of individual rights. That's what I'm seeing the most argument about it.
Here's, and this may be a very meathead thing to say, okay? Because I'm always like, all right, we can all come with from our different corners with our different packets of research and science, and our doctors that are, well, my doctor said this, and my doctor said this, and this doctor said that, and this doctor. We can go down that rabbit hole and still end up in the same spot, which is what I feel is happening right now. People are still in the same spot that they started out with 3 months ago in terms of their stance on their belief on what this actually does and how necessary it is. Am I wrong in just taking, and this is kind of like, let's simplify things a little bit before we start going down the science route. When I was a child, I was always told to cover my mouth when I sneezed. And there was a reason for that, because you are going to dispel germs into the air that somebody else is going to breathe.
Right.
Now, mind you, I think that the science behind that is when somebody sneezes or coughs, it propels 26 feet in a multitude of directions, right?
Yeah.
Now, do I really need to go down the research side to say when I cover my mouth, I will minimize the amount of droplets in the air? Do I really need to go that far down?
No, not to me, but
from a common sense standpoint, that when I put something over my face, that there will be less in the air. Am I stupid?
Yeah. No, to me it's one of those things where it's like this is an obvious thing. But let me play devil's advocate a little bit. I think part of the confusion about this, it goes back a ways to the issue of whether wearing a mask that is not an N95 mask protects you from inhaling particulates. I think that's part of where this argument got off track because there were a lot of studies that showed that face masks don't necessarily protect hugely against the inhalation of diseased particles. They protect against the exhalation of diseased particles. And so if you're wearing an N95 mask, you're largely protected, but even then you may not be entirely protected because of the seal has to be correct, and it's got to be really working properly. And so there was I think there was some research that people were looking at originally that said, look, if you're wearing a cloth mask like this, it's not necessarily going to protect you if there is virus hanging in the air, okay? But that's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about is the suppression of expelled particulates. We're talking about reducing the amount of potentially diseased particulates in the common air. And the way to do that is to provide a barrier between your nose and your mouth and the outside environment. And the research on that is pretty clear. As a matter of fact, I don't think there's any controversy really at this point in the scientific community, although there may be a little bit, but really all public health officials are on board with this now. The research that's coming out is pretty clear. It's not 100% clear, but that's not how science works. In order for this to be 100% clear, like irrefutable, because everybody's looking for irrefutable scientific information, but irrefutable is not the scientific standard. So what you do in science is you come up with an idea that becomes a hypothesis. And then the hypothesis gets tested and it gets replicated and it gets peer reviewed and double-blind testing and all of that. And then it becomes a theory. And the theory explains why it is that the methods work, essentially.
Right.
That may not be, it's a process is what I'm getting at.
Yeah, well, what you're describing is a scientific process, right?
Right, that's the scientific process, and we haven't done a ton of testing during a pandemic, so we don't have the gold standard of peer-reviewed, double-blind, placebo testing yet because we haven't really had the opportunity at this point.
Listen, I get everything that you're saying. I guess my frustration lies is, do we need a scientific process?
I mean,
do you really need a scientific process to let you know what this is doing? This is doing.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm playing devil's advocate because I'm trying not to be too leaning too heavily toward my own confirmation bias right now. And so if you're really somebody that's gonna not believe in the current science, then you might have some argument that it's not irrefutable, but irrefutable has never been the standard of measurement for science, really. And the reality is that plenty of observational studies, and there have actually been actual studies that show a reduction in particulates that are exhaled into the common space when you wear a mask. And the abundance of evidence is on the side of that right now, and it's not really controversial. And what I'll point to also, which is personal experience that you and I went through, is well, no. This isn't a humiliating one.
Okay.
This is so prior to June 12th, when the fitness centers were allowed to reopen, you and I and Will got on a conference call that was held by the Los Angeles County Public Health Department. And they were talking about the policies that were in place, the rules that were going to dictate the reopening specifically of fitness facilities. And we were on that call for an hour or
an hour
or so. And we listened to their presentation and we asked some questions and so on and so forth. And one of the things that I was asking for when I had the opportunity is I said, can you, now since this time, I've come up with about 50 different articles that I have links for that show the effectiveness of wearing masks in an indoor space. But at the time, I was saying, look, you're recommending people wear masks indoors. It would be helpful to us as business owners if you could provide us with some really good links to data and research that show the effectiveness of wearing masks inside. Can you do that? And there was a long pause. And then the guy said, I don't really think there's any controversy on that issue in the scientific community. So he was stumped. He's like, really? We have to do that? I think it's now he's a scientist. So he's seeing things from the inside, from the scientific perspective. As a part of the scientific community, he was, I found that very telling, because what he was doing, he's like, moron. Everybody who understands the concept of science recognizes that masks have been shown to be effective in reducing the amount of particulates that are exhaled into a common space.
John,
And
I
thought that was really interesting.
The sneezing thing. I keep on going back to the sneezing thing. It's like my 2-year-old knows, or my 3-year-old now knows, to cover his mouth, because he understands that if he sneezes, and he's not going to use the word particulate, but if he sneezes, boogers are going to go all over the place.
It's just a larger particulate. It's a booger is just a large particulate.
Yeah, it's like I don't understand. What do you think, that particulates don't happen when you exhale?
Well, but
sneezing is the extreme version of it, right?
Here's the thing that I find really maddening is that I still feel like there's a lack of clarity for some people on this issue, which is this: if everyone wears masks, everyone, then what we do is we reduce the amount of potentially diseased particles in the common breathing area. If everyone is wearing masks, the masks are not so much for protecting particulates from getting into your mask as it is to protect us all from expelling a bunch of them into a common area. Look, back in the day, you used to smoke on airplanes. There was smoking on airplanes. There was a no smoking and a smoking section in restaurants. You know, that little barrier in between the smoking section and the non-smoking section on an airplane?
Yeah, it was usually like a little sign.
Right, it didn't work that well. It didn't work that well. So if you're smoking in another part of the airplane, that is going to eventually infect the entire plane. If you're coughing or if you're breathing hard in a small enclosed area and you have potentially diseased particulates that you're expelling, then that can contaminate a common area. Now, interestingly enough, what they did in airplanes is they just had a curtain. It was just like a curtain that would be between the smoking and the non-smoking. And it didn't work, but it helped. That curtain reduced the amount of smoke that would get from. So can we not even look at that? Come on. Come on. But
you're bringing up such a point that is a great point, but it's making me mad.
Yeah, because it's ridiculous. But people need to understand that the whole thing about masks is one person or two people not wearing masks screws up the entire concept. And so I'll see pictures of people working out in a gym, for example, and the trainers are all wearing masks and the clients aren't. And it's like, look, you should just either do one way or another. I mean, pick a side of the road. But if you go the middle of the road on this and some people are wearing masks and some aren't, then by default, everybody's not wearing a mask. Because
yeah, exactly. Everybody's not wearing a mask. Let's take your airplane analogy, it would be the equivalent of somebody from the smoking section walking into the non-smoking section and puffing away.
Yeah, that's
going past the barrier.
Yeah.
Right. And going into the smoking, non-smoking section and smoking up and just being like, well, what?
Now you're going to have
it's
smoke.
Only one person.
Yeah.
It's only one person, John.
Right. Now think of this. How many times in the Encino location have people said, there's somebody smoking outside? You know, because like people will sit down outside. So, you know, sometimes we would have the door open and people would be like, I can smell the smoke. Can you shut yeah, absolutely. We'd shut the door. And then most of the time it would pretty much, you know, minimize the smell of smoke inside the studio. But imagine inside the Encino location, you've got one person smoking out of 10, 15 people. That one person smoking, it kills the entire environment. So that's just an analogy for one person not wearing a mask.
But John, devil's advocate, out of sight, out of mind. I can't smell or see.
Yeah. That's the thing is that's where, you know, it's not as evident is, you know, if when you exhaled, if it hung in the air visibly and you could see it, it would probably make a lot more sense. I remember as a kid seeing a picture of an encyclopedia or a dictionary, I can't remember, but it was a picture book and it was a picture of somebody sneezing, just like you said. And it was done so that they could capture the sneeze, and it was a black background and there was light on the person's face, and they caught the person in mid sneeze, literally like their face was like frozen, and you saw just like a blast of spittle. And yeah, I think if you could black like that, you know, for people, and they could see it actually hanging like fog in the room, it might make a better impression on them as far as, you know, the seriousness of it.
Right. And listen, I just, it throws me for a loop because right now gyms are open, right?
Yeah.
Not our gym, but there have been several gyms, and there are a couple gyms out there that have actually held off from opening too as well. And the primary reason for us is we need to really kind of beta test what training with the mask is. So a couple of us have actually asked a couple members to come in and train side by side while we're doing some of the Zoom sessions to see what it's like. And the training staff has actually gone through a couple times and trained with training masks and to see what it's like, right? And listen, it's miserable. Yeah. There is no way to sugarcoat or to you know, I was trying to think how are we going to explain this to our members. Listen, guys, if Arena Fitness members are listening, this is like drowning. Okay, it is rough. We're going to have to start you off really slow for in-person training, and we're going to have to modify schedules so that you're not allowing people to train every single day in a mask. Primarily because you need to build this up. It's like altitude training, right?
Yeah.
It's an extreme version of training when most people are coming back into training as a way to get themselves back to where they were at the beginning of the year. Now, think about that, okay? You come off of 3 months and listen, John, right now, you've been training, right?
Yeah.
If I told you that in 2 weeks, we're going to do the equivalent of Hell Week, starting in July, of what you did 20 years ago in high school.
Thank you. You just saved 10 years off my life. Thank you.
Would that be appropriate for you?
No.
I mean, like that's the worst from a program director standpoint, which is where I'm standing. That's the dumbest freaking thing to do to people, right? Is to just take them right off of being quarantined and put them into altitude training. Because that's what we're doing. We're putting them into altitude training. Whether that's, you know, that's just not a smart thing to do from an athletic standpoint, right? So the decisions that we're making at Arena is that we're going to have a modified schedule. We're going to kind of roll this out July and August to acclimate to that ability to be able to breathe under restrictions. And the way we're going to do that is we're obviously going to go Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday as in-person, the ability to do in-person training. But Monday, Wednesday, Friday, we're going to have to keep it Zoom sessions only. And that's pretty much the reason for that, is just from a training standpoint. You can't start training 7 days a week with a mask. That is just, not only are people going to drop off like flies, it's dangerous.
Right. And if you ask,
you can't go from couch to sprinting.
Yeah, if you ask anybody who's been actually training in a mask, they're going to tell you that. I've been training in a mask, and you've been training in a mask, just to kind of acclimate myself. And it's very different, and it's not ideal, and it's not comfortable, and I'm used to it now, but it's by no means, I mean, given the opportunity, I would take that thing off in a New York minute. I would only disagree with you on one point, where you said the dumbest thing that you could do as a program director would be to take somebody off the couch and throw them right into altitude training. No, that's the second dumbest thing that you could do. The dumbest thing you could do would be to allow 10 people to train indoors in a confined space without masks on. That would be the dumbest thing that you could do.
Well, yeah, I mean, that would be the dumbest thing to do. And listen, let's talk about that. Why are gym owners giving because we know that indoor, when you're shared space, we go into supermarkets with masks on, we go into stores with masks on, we go into salons with masks on. Movie theaters are starting to open up, which is unbelievable to me, but you're going to have to wear a mask in the movie theater, right? But
you know how many people are going to take that thing off when the lights go down too?
Oh, for sure. But yet gyms, for some reason, have
Can you explain the actual rule? The actual rule?
I have no idea.
Okay, I'll tell you what the actual rule is. I will tell you what the actual rule is. The actual rule policy when it comes to fitness centers is you must wear a mask on your way in and on the way out. But when you're there, it's up to you.
Why doesn't that rule, now, mind you, in a gym facility, you're going to be breathing 2 to 5 times heavier than you would just speaking right now.
Right.
Okay? So you're going to be expelling more into the air.
Right.
While you're working out.
Right. Not while you're walking in, not while you're walking out, but while you're actually there.
Okay. So
which is the time when you don't have to be wearing it.
Right. So please explain to me how gyms have created that loophole.
I'm gobsmacked by that. I don't know. I don't understand, because the only other thing I can compare it to is restaurants, where obviously you've got to take your mask off to eat. I haven't sat down at a restaurant since early March. Right. I haven't been to a restaurant, but the servers are supposed to be wearing masks. You wear masks and a face shield. When you sit down, you're supposed to be wearing a mask, and then what do you go like this and take a bite? I'm not quite sure how this works.
That's exactly what happens.
That's the closest thing that I can think of when it comes to fitness facilities. I don't understand why fitness centers got the designation of being allowed. What's the rationale behind when you enter and when you leave? I mean, that's pathetic. That's like a political concession. It's like, well, we want to make it look like we're looking out for public safety. So as long as you're wearing it on the way in and on the way out, that is preposterous.
The only reason I can think of that there's been this lax kind of attitude when it comes to indoor training is that anybody that's ever worn one of these, which hopefully is the majority of it, automatically goes in the back of their head and they go, it's hard to breathe with this normally.
Yes.
We're going to have people dying if we require this inside of a gym. But you're also the highest risk area to go. We're going to just make this optional at the most highest risk. The whole thing doesn't make any sense to me. I understand why possibly you would say optional, because anybody who has ever worn one of those things is going to go, I can't make somebody do that. That is
Yeah.
terrible. It's uncomfortable, and I don't want people to be that uncomfortable inside my facility, which is a granted. That is a valid argument. I don't ever want to put somebody in my facility and make them feel uncomfortable and miserable while I'm trying to, to have them explore health and fitness and try to better themselves. The last thing we want to do is put somebody in a position where they're completely miserable.
Right. You don't invite somebody into your gym and then waterboard them for 45 minutes. Like that's not a solid business model.
No, it's not.
So,
It is
but,
not.
and there are, and, in all fairness, there are, and I get it, I get that it is not comfortable, and I understand exactly what you're saying. And there are some people who shouldn't wear masks, and those would be people who have respiratory issues and that kind of thing. But then they shouldn't be in the gym anyway, because they're a higher risk person. And if you've got a respiratory disease or issue, you should not be training in a gym. You should be training from home. But let's talk about the reasons why gyms and studio owners would allow people to make their own decision as far as the mask is concerned. Because you and I have talked about this a little bit, behind the scenes, but let's talk about that. Why would a studio owner, let's say even just a small, studio like Arena Fitness, what are the reasons why a studio owner would allow people to train inside their facility without masks?
Because they don't want to lose their clients.
Right.
We're coming, as business owners, we're coming off of the worst case scenario that, mind you, I can't really think of a business owner that's had to go through this in history, where they've had to shut down for 3 months, probably lose a considerable amount of their business in the process of doing that. And now they're having, for those of us that have survived, we're crawling out of this freaking hole on our hands and knees, roughed up, kicked in the face,
wearing masks,
and having to tell our members or customers that they have to enter into a scenario where they're just going to be miserable for 45, possibly miserable for 45 minutes if the structure of the program is not done responsibly. And even if it's done responsibly, there's going to be a little bit of a curve before it becomes natural. Not that it won't become natural. I think that it will become natural.
We adapt to anything. I mean, we will adapt to anything. Yeah.
But the fear of the backlash is putting gym owners in a position where they're flat out ignoring the science. They're pushing it aside. They're going, but not for my people, because I need to pay rent.
Survival. It's
let's be real. Let's be real. That's what it is.
It is. And you know what? You and I understand that 100%. I understand the fear. You spend years building up a business, and then something like this happens, and they finally open the doors, and you're in a deep hole. And then you're supposed to implement policies that alienate your customer base, and you're starting to go, my God, can we make it? Am I going to survive? And that is a real fear for a lot of gym owners, and you and I know a lot of them. And we have conversations with studio owners all the time, and there is palpable fear out there, and for good reason. Every industry has taken it on the chin, but the fitness industry is really getting kicked hard because we were one of the business
people work out in that.
And we were kept closed for, longer than other businesses, except, there were a few that were in phase 3, but we were kept closed. And then upon reopening, we have to ask people to wear masks, which all businesses are. But if you go to a nail salon, I get my hair cut in a mask, it's no big deal. But if you try to do burpees in a mask, it's a whole different ballgame. And let's just go on record by saying that the reason that we at Arena Fitness are requiring people to wear masks is because it is plain and simple the only way for us to provide the safest environment for our members and for our staff. And the thing that matters to us most is safety health and well-being when it comes to our members and when it comes to our staff. And we could not allow our business to move forward with optional masks, put our members at risk, put our staff at risk. And even if they, as individuals, weren't at risk, they could potentially contract the virus and pass it on to a parent, a grandparent, an aunt, somebody who's at risk. I will not be responsible for, contributing to the spread of disease. We're in a surge right now. We're in a spike. You led this whole thing off by saying that we were in a spike right now, and we are. And so now we're going to respond to that crisis by inviting people into an enclosed space to breathe heavily on each other without masks. That is irresponsible. It's
now
irresponsible.
let's talk about that. We're talking about, because let's talk about the safety precautions on top. Let's put masks aside. We're doing temperature checks. We have disinfected mats for the bottom of people's shoes so that they can disinfect the bottom of their shoes coming in and out of the facility. We have surgical masks on hand. We have antibacterial dispensers that are being installed tomorrow in multiple areas in both locations. Mind you, we're a 2,000 square foot place. Okay, it's not a huge place, but we want to have more dispensing. Our fitness areas for people to walk, to work out in are 10 by 10, meaning we're actually putting our people 10 feet apart. That's 4 feet than what's required, right? We are limiting sizes to people to 6 to 8, in certain cases 8 to 10, a maximum of 10 people in the room. We're doing all of those things, and we still, when you put in all those things, because
air purifiers.
Air purifiers too as well.
Thermometer checks.
Thermometer checks, logging in those things. We're doing all those things, and we still are going to require people to wear masks. And it's because, listen, again, we go back to it. The science is there. Listen, if let's just take a 24-hour fitness or an LA Fitness, because Stacy posed the question. I think that in and out assumes you're going into a gym and on a piece of equipment in an area by yourself. And when you move to another area, you put masks back on. Here's the problem with that. We're doing that. Everybody has their own fitness spot. There will be no shares. I want to say that the majority of fitness studios out there are doing the same thing in terms of they're going to stop this circuit training style of working out that has become popular in group training over the last 10 years. That has come to a grounding halt.
It has
primarily
to.
It has to. I mean, primarily one of the reasons why it's so hard to find equipment, because you've got gyms that are having to order 12 of everything,
right,
as opposed to just 3 because they were doing circuit style training.
Right. One of the other beautiful benefits of this coronavirus pandemic is the fact that we're coming out of it with higher expenses.
Higher expenses, yeah. Higher expenses, lower volume.
Right.
An awesome business model, right?
Awesome business model. Yeah.
Yeah, that's like our stock buying tips.
Right. Buy high, sell low.
Sell low. Right. Exactly. Here's the problem with, I work out. Let's say it's 5-10 minutes. I have my 10 area. Let's just say it's 20 feet. Okay. I'm still expelling, when I'm breathing hard, 26 feet. Okay. So let's just say I'm in an LA Fitness that has 20,000 square feet, and I'm going to work out here for 15 minutes, and I'm going to do my thing without it. And then I'm going to decide to go across the room, let's say 100 feet. Okay. And I have to put my mask back on. Okay. What's the point of that? When we know that droplets will remain in the air for 17 minutes, up to 17 minutes, and you're going to walk through that, okay?
It's like walking through a cloud of smoke, Walking
through a cloud of smoke. So again, back to your cigarette idea. If I puff out smoke, you're going to be able to smell that for a lot longer, way after I put my cigarette out.
Right.
So in order for that theory to work, I will work out in my space without a mask. And then when I decide to move, I will have to put my mask back on. You know what you would have to do? I would have to work out here and then end my workout or that segment of the workout and wait 20 minutes.
Right.
Everybody would have to wait 20 minutes before I would have to walk across the room with my mask on in order for that to even remotely work.
Right.
That's how that would work. So the theory behind walking in, taking it off, staying in one spot, and then putting it back on to move to a different section doesn't work.
I really think it's just optics. It's really just optics. It's like we want to make it look like we're implementing policies for the public good, but we don't really want to inconvenience people, because then we're going to have a personal liberties crisis on our hand. And listen, it's a balancing act, and I wouldn't want to be a politician having to make these decisions, but I just, it's very clear to me that I'm not, listen, I mean, I'm 50, so I'm not 30 years old, but I don't really worry too much. And it's not until I don't worry too much about myself getting it. I mean, I think a lot of us say that, although you and I both know that our good friend Greg, who was a healthy 53-year-old guy, got it and was in the hospital for 2 months. But I do worry about passing it on to other people. And I would not, because I train in other gyms sometimes, as you know, because I live in Eagle Rock, so I'm, 30 minutes or 40 minutes away from the gym. So when I'm on my side of town, I'll go and I'll train at another studio, just because I like to be a student sometimes too, and I like to see what other people are doing and so on. I would never go and train in a studio where masks were not required by everybody. Never.
I wouldn't either. Listen, you've asked me the question, when am I going to return back to jiu-jitsu? It's a simple answer. It's when there's a vaccine.
Yeah, I mean, I think of the same thing. I'm like, gosh, I'd like to go back to Muay Thai, and I'm like, it ain't gonna happen anytime soon. It's just not gonna happen anytime soon. So, in fairness, I do want to say this. I understand the fear around losing your business, and I understand the fear around alienating members. The fitness industry is in for a tough road. We've got a tough road ahead of us as an industry, because, what we do is inherently a little bit more risky for the transmission of disease, because you've got people breathing heavily, in an enclosed space. So we're doing what we're doing because we could not in good conscience do it any other way. And it's important to us that we maintain the safest environment for people. We couldn't live with it another way. And one other thing that I wanted to bring up is there's been a lot of confusion. I've had so many debates over the mask issue with people in the last few weeks. I mean, it's been brutal. It's like, it's frustrating for me, and I'm sure it's frustrating for them, the people that are anti-mask or just simply don't believe that they work. Our public officials didn't do us any good at the beginning. I saw an article recently, I think it was Fauci, who even was saying early on, was downplaying the importance of masks. And what part of the reason is that there was a run on N95 masks, and the public officials became afraid that they were going to get sold out, and that the people who really needed them, the people in the medical community and so on and so forth, the first responders, weren't going to have adequate supplies of N95 masks. So public officials kind of went on PR, on a PR campaign saying, these masks are not necessarily going to help, and so on and so forth, mostly to dissuade people from buying up the limited supply of N95 masks. But, a few months later, I don't know of a public health official anywhere that's saying don't wear a mask at this point. Right. And let's just say this too. Even if you're not 100% sure that it works, even if there's doubt, even if there's a 50-50 chance that it works, isn't that enough? Isn't that enough to say, you know what, I'm going to be a team player. I'm going to put this thing on. It sucks, but that's part of the social contract. That's part of the social contract that exists in a responsible society. is
Right.
I will protect you, you protect me. That's how this whole thing works. And my take on it is, even if there is debate, even if there is some degree of controversy over the effectiveness of everybody wearing masks, you do it anyway, because you're a team player, and because there's a chance that it's going to make a difference, and there's a chance that it's going to tamp down on the transmission of disease. I don't see it any other way. I don't see that there's any other option if you are a responsible participant in an environment where there is a social contract that exists where people take care of each other. So
I mean, and I mean, the gym environment is like the highest on the mark when it comes to that environment that you're talking about. Like,
yeah,
my God, we're telling people to protect themselves, protect each other in society, but yet when we go into a gym, for some reason, the rules don't apply.
Unbelievable.
It's unbelievable. Or just have the trainer wear the mask. Well, we've already distinguished the fact that, me wearing a mask is not protecting me.
Right.
So what? I'm going to take 10 people, get them in there working out so that they can put me at risk. That's the theory. Like, listen, we know very much what we're asking our members to do.
Yeah.
And it's a big ask. It's a big ask, not a little ask. But we have to lean on each other here. We have to. We won't survive. We're not going to. It's just going to put people more at harm by giving them the option, because we know that it's making them uncomfortable. I can't ignore the science or the rationale or the effectiveness of wearing masks simply because I know how uncomfortable they're being, and I want to just make them more comfortable. Listen, that is a very great gesture, but my ability to be kind and empathetic towards somebody's how comfortable somebody is in my facility ends at the time that it puts my family at risk.
Right.
That it puts my own health at risk, and that it puts my own community at risk. That's where that ends. And it should end for every business owner, but so I get the decisions of making it optional, but that's a big one for me. And listen, we can harp on this a lot, but I want to talk about a little bit about the things that we are doing and how.
Yeah, I'm surprised. I just looked at the timer. I'm like, holy shit, we've been going on a rant for 50 minutes about this.
Yeah, I can't believe it, but it's obviously a hot topic, and it's important because it's swaying a lot of our business decisions right now as far as how we're going to conduct business moving forward in July, how we're going to conduct business for the future. And I'm excited about a lot of things because I think that you can introduce mask wearing and training in a mask in a very responsible and scientific way, which is what we're going to be doing in July. We're going to be rolling out Tuesday, Thursday, Saturdays at both of our locations, where you're going to be able to do in-person and online. Online is going to be part of our program 7 days a week, as it is right now. We're going to be adding more options for people to train, assuming that they're going back to their normal lives, right? That they're going to be going back into their workplaces and different things like that. So we want to be able to offer people the same schedule that we were offering at the beginning of the year, but with more flexibility. Especially the flexibility is necessary there to be able to acclimate again back to, in my mind, is altitude training, and be able to kind of onboard people through the month of July and through the month of August in a responsible way where it makes sense from an athletic standpoint, from a safety standpoint, for our training staff, so that we're not exposing our training staff to 7 days a week of in-person training right off the bat, and that there's some sort of a scale up going through. So we're excited about a new scheduling system that we're going to be using. We're going to be dropping Mind Body in July, hopefully, and we're going to be moving to a new system called Kooks. We'll be able to deliver not only exercise programs remotely, but also pre-recorded workouts that people will be able to do. So the times are not such where you can make it. You can always have your exercise program delivered to you, and you can do it on your own based upon the equipment that you have at the house, which is really, really exciting. And the community aspect of it is going to be also one of the things that I really like about this new training system is we've always had pockets of friends within our community that they've gravitated towards each other. And one of the things that makes me smile so many times is when other people are asking, oh, when are you taking Tuesday? Are you taking Saturday? Are you taking this? This system is going to allow people to create buddies so that you can see each other's schedule and be able to book yourselves into the same sessions that your buddies need to take. So it's great in terms of community and different things like that. So I'm really excited about those kind of things. But it's interesting how, you know, we're creative, innovative people. We're constantly kind of saying the silver lining in all this is forced us to be a better studio, to be a better at what we do in terms of how we service people and how we're taking care of our community and how we're exercising and introducing fitness. So I'm really excited about this new platform moving forward, because I really do believe that it's going to be able to kind of revolutionize the hybrid gym model, which is the gym of the future. The gym of the future is a hybrid model. It is online and in person and a combination of both. And it needs to be able to service the people that are comfortable wearing masks. It needs to be able to service the people that are not comfortable wearing masks. It needs to be able to service the people that are kind of in between, right? Like I still need the social aspect of it, which, listen, every fitness professional knows, and this is part of the reason that we want to open up so badly. This social interaction piece to humanity is so important when it comes to health. We understand that we have to do in-person training. It is an essential piece to being healthy. It is, people are going stir crazy. You know, they're talking about like COVID-19 fatigue and pandemic fatigue right now. I get it. It is a very real thing, and it is mentally exhausting. And we don't want to create a scenario where people go right back into socializing and explode this thing, which is what's happening in California. We opened up within a month's time. We're right back where we started. And it started with Memorial Day. Everybody said, we're out. And they went crazy like there's some teenager out partying in Havasu all of a sudden. Like, we just went nuts. It's Havasu right now, all over the place. So we understand that as fitness professionals, but the steps that we're taking with Kooks and how we're going to be rolling it out, I'm really, really excited. I think it's going to be a great program. I think moving forward, it's going to be revolutionary in the way of what we're doing at Arena Fitness in comparison to other people that are out there. I think they've got pieces of it, but I really do think that we're going to be the leaders in terms of how we actually deliver fitness within a pandemic, which is the most ridiculous thing I think I've ever said to you. Is like, we're going to be innovators in a pandemic, man.
Yeah, that's not something that we would have really planned for a couple of years ago. It's like, listen, let's lay the foundation right now for exploding during a pandemic. But what I like about what you're saying, and you and I have been discussing this a lot, is what we're really talking about is an enhanced experience, because it's going to be a hybrid experience, meaning every member will have access to in-person training at the gyms and at-home training. So you can do one, you can do the other, you can do both. So that's amazing, because let's say that you're somebody who likes to come into the gym a couple times a week, 2 or 3 times a week, and it's Wednesday and you really want to get in, but you know what? You're waiting for the refrigerator guy, and the refrigerator guy's running late, and damn it, I'm going to miss the class. No, you're not, because if the refrigerator guy leaves at 8:59, you can jump into the live streaming online 9 a.m. class. And so it's going to be a combination of enabling people to have a lot of convenience by working out from home and having the in-person connection and the social aspect of their training at the actual gyms as well. And the other thing is that Kooks is going to enable us to deliver My Zone classes, which...
Well, see, I was going to double down on that too and say, if you can't even make the 9 o'clock, I can deliver the workout to you, and you can do it on your own. And then let's double down on the Zoom session experience. we are going to be rolling out MZ remote classes, which are the ability to integrate your MyZone with a live class. So what does that mean? What we're going to be able to do is we're going to be able to superimpose on the screen with our Zoom. You're going to be able to see your tile and other people in the class's tiles, so that we can create that kind of competitive feeling that we create in the gym, that same experience. Because if you walk in Arena Fitness, we'll have all these different displays of MyZone tiles. We are now bringing that to the live experience online, which is great, because not only are we being innovative when it comes to the hybrid perspective, we're going to double down. We're going to improve the Zoom experience too as well, which
Right.
I'm super excited about.
And it's even more relevant because we will be requiring people to have and to wear MyZone belts when they're in the facility. And the reason for that is that a lot of it has to do with what you've already talked about, with people training in a mask for the first time. And I trained in a mask, and you've trained in a mask, and my experience is that it elevates my heart rate up about one zone at least. So if I'm working out at an intensity that I would without a mask be in the green zone, I'm in the yellow zone. And the other thing is that when people are wearing masks inside the gym, we will not be able to recognize facial cues that we normally pay a lot of attention to in our training that people might not even think about. But Joe and I have done 30, 40,000 training sessions in our time, and you watch people's faces and their mannerisms to understand, is this person in distress? Is this person uncomfortable? And we have developed the ability over time of being able to identify people that are in distress and pull them off the floor, sit them down, give them a cold, wet towel around the neck, put them in front of the fan. But when people are wearing masks, we're not going to have access to the facial cues and some of the distress signals that we would normally be able to recognize. The only data that we will have at our disposal to make sure that people aren't overexerting themselves when they come back and when they're training in a mask for the first time is heart rate zone. And so we'll be able to see the data up on the TV screen and know whether somebody's in the green zone, the yellow zone, the red zone, the blue zone. And we will be able to protect somebody's safety as a result. And if somebody gets into a zone too quickly that we know is probably going to create distress for them, then we can pull them out and give them a timeout and let them kind of simmer down and let their heart rate settle. So that's another measure that we're taking for security and safety, is that everybody's going to have to get a MyZone belt. So if you want to train in the studios, you need to get a MyZone belt. And we've got a link for you where you can buy it at cost. We're not making any money off of this, guys. MyZone costs us money. We don't make money off of MyZone. And you can buy a belt at cost. You will need to do that if you're going to train in the studios, because it gives us what we need to keep you safe. And I think that's important. And so that's going to be, now everybody's going to have a MyZone belt. So it'll enhance the entire MyZone experience, whether you're inside the studio or out, because like Joe said, we're going to be rolling out these really cool MyZone or MZ, what are they called? MZ remote classes? MZ remote classes, which is cool.
Yeah, that's probably one of the things I'm more excited about, is the whole integration of MyZone into our scheduling experience and Kooks in general, as far as the app is concerned, and being able to have everything in one spot. Unfortunately, we've been trying to innovate so much. I think we've got 13 apps out there.
Yeah, we do. We're gonna be able to consolidate and keep things simple.
One app.
Yeah. And so we'll be providing more information about that as far as transitioning from MindBody over to Kooks, and providing more information about scheduling and all of that stuff, and about all the different things, the ways in which we're going to be enhancing people's experience. And I'm really excited about the combination hybrid model moving forward. I think it's absolutely the right way to go. And I think it would have been the right way to go 6 months ago. It's just that I think that, like I said, necessity is the mother of invention, and it's also the mother of new experiences. So there are plenty of people out there who are like, I would never train at home. And now there are members that I had to talk into doing training. online. I'm like, listen, just try it. I get it. It's not your top choice. I understand 100%, but you're not exercising right now, you know, or you're doing very little. Let's just try it. Just try it. And I have a number of people, not every person, but I have a number of people who have come back and they're like, you know what? I'm kind of surprised. I really like this. I like the fact that I don't have to jump in the car and drive and park and get out and go in and work out and then collect myself and go home. I can just put my pen down, turn my phone off, work out for 45 minutes, and then I'm home, you know, right after it. So
it's a time saver.
It's pretty cool. So if you haven't tried out any of our group training classes or semi-private training, let me know. Let Joe know. We'll put you in, whether your membership is active right now or not. We'll put you in so that you can get an experience of it. I'm not guaranteeing you're going to like it, but I'm surprised how many people have been enthusiastic about it. It's pretty cool.
Oh yeah, too. Absolutely. It's been great, and it's a testament to our staff too as well. I mean, like they've been able to, you know, Will's been great, Alina's been great, Stacy's been awesome as far as like being able to really deliver a good experience online and have it really be as close to an in-person experience as we possibly can.
And we're going to increase. We're going to increase the amount of online classes that we're offering. So
I'm laying out the schedule right now. Right after we stop, I'm going to go into that scheduling thing, and I'm booking us out. So people better start getting ready.
Yeah, make sure you're ready. If you've been dormant for the last 3.5 months, you're not jumping right into training right off the bat. We're going to make you go through some hoops so that we make sure that you are prepared for training and prepared for training in a mask. And we're doing it because we love you, not because we want to, you know, punish you. You know, it's our job. It's our job to look after your health and well-being, and we won't have it any other way. We won't have it any other way.
That's why I love working with you, brother.
Yeah, man. Good stuff. I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm excited too. Well, listen, I think we've ranted long enough.
Yeah.
Our Stacy Funk probably needs to go do something.
That's right. That's right, Stacy. We'll let you go now, Stacy.
Yeah, we'll let you go, Stacy. All right, brother. Well, listen,
all right, man.
I love these talks, man. I really, really do. I think it's important talks. I think it's important for us to sit here and have conversations that our community can kind of be a part of and see kind of a little bit behind the scenes as far as like what goes on when we have these discussions, and because they really lead to policies that run our business and how we run our business. And sometimes it's kind of interesting for people to see how we come up with these things, why we structure classes the way we do, why we go after certain systems the way we do it. And I think it's great, and I enjoy it every single Thursday, man. I really do.
So do I, man.
All right, brother. Well, listen.
All right, man. Well, we'll say I'll talk to you later, but the truth is I'm going to talk to you in like 15 minutes probably. So.
Oh yeah, anyway, exactly.
All right, man. I'll see you soon.
All right, man. I'll talk to you later.